What it do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ, and today we got Shawney's body butter. Let's see what this do. So Shawney's body butter came in this beautiful box with butterflies. The butter comes with the butterflies. So let's open it up and see what we got up in here. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. So shout out to Shawney's body butter shop, excuse me. Thank you for supporting my small business anytime, beautiful. All right, so here we got the very best beard balm and the very best beard oil. Let's start with the very best beard butter balm. Open that up. Look at that. Smells like cocoa butter. You know what I'm saying? Good for black men. Let's check that out. We also got that very best beard oil. I'm gonna go ahead and add some in there. Now, smelling this, smells a little like double mint gum, so I'm pretty sure it has some of that, whatever double mint is. Now, I'm gonna read the directions and see if I need to apply this any form of way. I guess while I'm at it, I should tell you what's in it. It has sweet almond oil, peppermint oil, I knew that, eucalyptus, avocado oil, carrot seed oil, argan oil, castor oil, essential oils, fractionated coconut oil, vitamin E oil, and sunflower oil. That's a lot of oil, baby. So I'm gonna use this and drizzle a little bit over my beard. Now wipe it in. Oh, you can smell it. Smell good. Let me get my girl reaction.
Baby, smell my beard. How it smell?
It smells good.
There you go. Man, I wish y'all could see this glow. This light don't do it no justice, but the glow is there. Look at that shine. Yeah, it got a little shine and fluff to it. I like that oil. It made it juicier though, so now let's put on this butter. Now we got the very best beard butter balm. I'm going ahead and, oh man, it's nice and thick too. So I got a lot of beard. So now, how you love that, boy? Your boy clean, fresh, and smelling good. Now, let's go see if my woman think it smells good with the beard oil and the butter together. All right, babe, we got both of them on there smelling.
Well, I like it better like that.
Oh, yeah, the double. So there you have it, man. Go get you the best beard butter balm. You gotta have that, but you gotta also add in the beard oil. You gotta add the beard oil with the beard balm. Get the 2-for-1, both of them together. You saw my woman smelled it and smelled good, so everyday people, go hit up Shawney. Shawney_BB, SHWNEY_B.
MyFreebird.com.
What it do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ, and we here with the Flex Series shaving kit from Freebird. Let's take a look inside. Oh, welcome to the family. There you go. Your inner barber is calling. Freebird comes with the handheld cordless device. It does have the 5-blade head. Check that out. It also comes with your exfoliation brush and your massager, along with the nose trimmer for your precision nose trimming. It also comes with this precision clipper, you get what I'm saying? And it also has guards, 3 different sizes for your precision clipper. All right, so I've explained what this box came with. Now let's see what this thing could do. Okay, so first we're gonna test out this precision clipper. Now let's see how good this works on my hair. Now you see my hairline, baby. That hairline is pushed back, way back into time. All right, I'm gonna do this where you can see this. I'm gonna choose this precision clipper in. Let's go on through that hairline now. Oh. Yeah, it's getting it. Now, let's take a look at what the precision clipper did. It took my hair down just enough to now I could go over it with the 5-blade shaver. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to replace the precision clipper with the Flex Series 5-blade rotary shaver. Bam, just like that, right? Check the flex of them blades. Those blades flex so they can go over those knots, because I know y'all's head ain't perfect, mine isn't either, but that flex gets it going right over those knots. So let's get started using the rotary blades. Oh man, you see it's coming clean off. Make sure you go at different angles with your hair, you know what I mean? You want to be sure to get all that hair. But this side looking very smooth, dog. Look at it. And just like that, in under 5 minutes, I got me a smooth shave using this Freebird Flex Series 5-blade rotary shaver. This little joint right here, no bigger than the palm of my hand. Now, if you ever use my discount code at Freedom Grooming, yes, you can use my discount code at Freebird. Yes, everydaypj. Use my discount code, man. It still works. Save some money now and then. This will be a great Christmas present since Christmas is coming up. And get yours early, man. Don't slack, man. These will sell out. Now, you can find the Freebird shaver and other products at myfreebird.com. Be sure to get the Flex Series shaving kit and use my discount code everydaypj. Yep, everydaypj at myfreebird.com. Myfreebird.com. Use the discount code everydaypj, man. Get this one to your mama, your uncle, your grandma, your cousins. Give this gift to anybody. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
This is part 7 of how I met, married, and got scammed by a gold digger. So my son and I move into our new house in Iowa and start to settle in, and I find it harder than I expect. I love the house. Cool neighborhood in the sense of it's cute, quaint. The way the town's laid out is good. My son finds a great job. That's awesome. But I'm not making friends the way that I thought. And I don't quite know what to do with myself. I'm in a new town. I'm not licensed to practice there. And on top of it, I've been thinking about moving to Mexico because my thought was, if I end up getting into this marriage, wouldn't it be cool to start a business together? I used to be a landlord in Michigan. What if we started a vacation rental business in Mexico? And that way we could have a company we ran together and we could be together. And I just had this idyllic picture of how I wanted life. And it's not happening in Iowa. But we get ready for the trip to California, and he's going to see some of the sites of where I went to school, and then we're going to go up to Napa Valley. And I'm excited because I can tell he's got something in the works, and I'm thinking maybe he might ask me to get engaged. So he plans a special evening at a winery of one of his of a famous, it's actually Coppola's winery, and he's a big fan of The Godfather. And we go up that night, and he's kind of antsy and excited, and I'm excited, and we're dressed up, and it's really a great night. And he takes me out to the back deck, and it's dark already, and the sun is set. In fact, the moon's up. And he looks at that moon, and he talks about how gorgeous it is. And then I turn around to find him on one knee with a box held out and says, "Carrie, will you marry me?" And I'm stunned. And I look at the ring, and then my heart fell because it was obviously very cheaply made. I could tell it was not even real metal. It had been, what's the word, coated. And, but he's all excited, and I don't want to break the moment. It's been such a great evening. So we go in and we have dinner, but I'm kind of feeling weird because I'm excited we're getting engaged. But why do you buy such a cheap ring? I'm serious. I mean, it looked like you got it out of the bubble gum machine or something. But he sees my face just before we go have dinner, and he sees how crestfallen it looks, and he leans close and whispers and says, "I know it's not much. It's all I had right now. I'll get you a much nicer one for one of our anniversaries." So I take that as a consolation prize. At least he knows, and he's, trying to make the best of it. So we have a great romantic weekend, see some great wineries. We even do a mud bath and laugh and take some pictures while we're doing this kind of crazy experience. And then we head back to life again, and I keep seeing him. He invites me up to have lunch during his work days. He's working long. He's looking really tired, but I'm excited because now we have a wedding to plan and a honeymoon to plan, and a future. You know, we're talking about moving to Mexico, and I started thinking about, you know, where, if I moved to Mexico, where would I want to live, and what property might I want to buy. So we even fly down and look at something together. We're just kind of like making these big plans together, and I'm very excited about all of this. So in fact, we find a property in Playa del Carmen, and I go down and look at it with him, and we both really fall for it. We really like it a lot. And in that process, we also then fly over to his family that lives in near Mexico City, and we meet them. And they have this engagement party for us too, with the family, and celebrate our coming together. And it's really cool. In fact, on the way over, when we're flying there, he holds my hand and looks at me and he says, "I've never taken anybody to see my family before. This is the first time. I'm so excited about doing this. You know, I've never taken a woman before we got married to meet them for their kind of their permission. And, you know, how cool is this?" And I'm feeling so excited and so touched, and like everything's just coming together, you know? So we end up putting a deposit down on well, actually I did, because though he was working a professional job, he didn't seem to have any savings, and he had some loans and some debt. So I'm the one that put down the deposit on the property, and I'm, you know, moving forward with the attorney, starting to build, you know, create a company that's going to own several properties to have a vacation rental business in Playa del Carmen. And so we're all excited about all these things moving and the wedding coming up. And we've, you know, planned this white, like with hydrangeas and a chocolate cake, and having just a few close friends and family come in and really make it a special event. One of my friends from back in Michigan is going to come and officiate. And we'd even decided we're going to write our own vows. And so it's really cool all of this to come in together. And I'm getting excited about moving to Mexico and getting my visa and becoming a, you know, resident there, and starting this new life with them. Something that actually, believe it or not, before Brad passed away, we talked about this, that how I could do that I could live abroad and have this really cool experience, because he'd known I traveled when I was a teenager and young adult, that he said, you know, you should do that. You should consider doing that and start a new life in a new country. And we kind of dreamed that together just before he passed away. So I'm feeling like I'm fulfilling Brad's dream, and on top of it, starting this really cool thing with Caesar. I'm wrapping up details, and he's wrapping details up. We're approaching the wedding. We realized because of the visa, we really need to get married sooner than we had planned with family. So we decided we're going to have a courthouse wedding, you know, get legally married, and then marry again with our family. So we're coming up to that date in May, and I rush home back to Michigan to kind of wrap up some business there. And I fly in, you know, and we're going to get married in 5 days. And I see him. Caesar meets me at the airport, not my son. I planned to be meeting my son, but Caesar meets me, and he looks awful. He's rocking back and forth, and he's sweating, and he has roses in his hands. So I go up and I think, oh my goodness, which of my kids got hurt? I go up to him and said, "What's wrong?" And he says, "I don't know how didn't know this. I don't know how I forgot, but Carrie, I'm still married." I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, I that last marriage was so awful that I just walked out, and I just literally forgot that I never bothered to get a divorce from her. I'm still married." And this weekend I rushed back to my hometown, and I filed a divorce, and I'm able to do it because her and I don't have any property and no bank account, so I'm able to do a real quick one. But I'm technically married for another month. We can't get married in 5 days. And then he looks at me and he says, "Are you going to leave me?" And he starts to cry. I'm sick. The very thing I had worried about, that I'd asked the private investigator to check into, was to find out if this guy married. And he has been. I've been sleeping with a married man. I don't even know what to say. And on top of it, we need to get this visa wrapped up. We have an interview with the consulate, and part of my qualifications depending on me being married, having a marriage certificate. So that makes everything, that our timeline crunches tight. You know, if we're going to move and do all this, and because some of the move parts has to be done on a deadline. I say to him, we're not living together then for the next month. I need to respect this other woman, even though I didn't know, and this is disgusting to me. He goes, "I get it." And then we get really quiet. And so I just kind of put my head down for the next few weeks. It's going to take 4 weeks, and focus on the wedding and focus on thinking about making this move and actually, doing it. Even though I just barely got to Iowa, I'm already like moving again. We do all of that, and I feel like I'm running. I feel like something's wrong, and I'm running, and I don't know what's wrong. And I just feel like ever since Brad died, my life had gone wrong, and I just feel like I can't get it back, and I can't stop running. But I'm doing this anyway. And one afternoon, Caesar called me and said, hey, let's make a special weekend. When we pick up that divorce decree, let's celebrate the fact that we're officially divorced and we're now free to get married, and everything moves ahead. Let's make it an event. I think that's cool. So we planned to do a Segway tour of his hometown after we pick up the divorce papers from the court, and we make a reservation at one of my hotels, and I'm excited, thinking we're going to make this a great event. Things are going to get fixed, and we're going to move ahead. We're waiting for that month period to end so we can get a divorce, so he can get a divorce so that we can get married. And I'm just counting down the days. I feel so ashamed. I don't tell anybody. I don't even know what to say. I just feel I don't want to be that woman, and that's how I'm feeling, like that woman. And I'm mortified. I just want to get this behind me. So the day finally arrives. We drive up to his hometown. We check into the hotel, and we pick up the divorce decree. And he comes out of the courthouse with me after picking it up from the clerk, and literally does a little dance at the courtyard with me, and so excited, like we can finally get married. And I'm thinking, oh great, and we're going to have a celebration, and we're going to rekindle our relationship, and we're only now days away from getting married. Now again, we have a new court date with the courthouse at the, we're going to get married at clerks in a few days, and I'm so excited. And I think we're going to go out somewhere really cool. And as we're driving back to the hotel, he says to me, hey, my son got a hold of me, and he wants to see me tonight after work, and he works really late, and I'm here in town, and I thought I hate to say no to him, so I've made plans. I'm gonna leave tonight, and I'll be back late. And I'm like staring at him. I don't even know what to say. Like, you haven't talked to me. And when did this phone call happen? I never saw the phone ring and you pick it up. When did you make these plans? So we get back to the hotel, and he says, let's go see a movie and get something to eat. Like, that's going to be our special dinner, is we're going to eat at the movie theater. So we do, and I don't even know what to say. I'm beyond words, crushed. And he heads out at 10 p.m. that night, and I think, okay, we're going to do the Segway tour tomorrow morning. It's early, like we got to be there before 9. He's going to be back, and we're going to, because we get early, and he doesn't. It's then 1 a.m., and then 2 a.m. And then I start to think, well, maybe he's in the hospital, So I start to wonder, which hospital should I start to call? Or do I call the police department first? And then it's 3 a.m. And it occurs to me to call him, because he just doesn't pick up the phone. He doesn't respond well if I communicate with him. So I'm kind of feeling like that's meaningless, but I go ahead and I try. So I ring his phone, and nobody answers. It just goes to voicemail. So I do it again, thinking, well, that's really weird. And he picks up, and I say, hey, it's really late. Are you okay? It's nearly 3. I'm coming home in a half an hour. We're wrapping it up. My son and I are wrapping it up. I'll be there in just shortly. Like, okay. So I wait up for him, and he comes in. He says, you won't believe it. He didn't tell me he had to work till 1 a.m. So I just sat there, and I'm thinking, so from 10 to 1, you sat at a restaurant and didn't even bother to call me? I could have come and meet you. And I didn't think of that. It just was waiting for my son for us to connect. So finally, when he was free to connect, I wanted to make the most of it. I was floored. And I'm thinking, you couldn't text me. You sat there for 3 hours and you couldn't text me? You couldn't invite me and you couldn't text me. It was just strange. But we now are going to get ready for the Segway. We have a fun time. It goes well. We go back, and then we end up getting married at the courthouse. 5 days later, we go in and we see the clerk, and again, it's just weird. I'm dressed up, and one of my close friends from college comes and meets us, and my son acts as a witness, and she acts as a witness, but it's like, it's just missing something. It's feeling kind of a little odd, but we're now officially married. So we fly down to Mexico on Caesar's suggestion for a honeymoon weekend, and if it could go wrong, it goes wrong. It rains a lot. Our Airbnb doesn't have internet. it's hot because it's June, but it's not romantic, and we don't really have much physical intimacy. And I'm thinking that's okay because we're going to get married with my family in a month, and we'll make special reservations for the hotel, and then we have a really big honeymoon planned in Jamaica in August, just before we move. And by the way, we're now settled. We had the consulate. I had the consulate interview. They've approved me. Now I've got to get into the country. The clock has started that I got to get in and finish the visa process. So now things have to really start moving. So I'm seeing all this getting laid out, and I'm starting to feel like the time is moving fast, and all this stuff has got to fall into place. But I just chalk it up that it's short weekend, not things go wrong, and but we'll have a chance to do it over again. So we get back from Mexico, and we're heading into 4th of July weekend, and he tells me he has to work. He has a business trip, and I'm thinking, what? You're leaving on a business trip over the 4th of July? What company sends somebody to do a job in another location, another plant on the 4th of July? I'm shocked. But he heads out, and he heads out on Thursday, and he comes back on that Sunday, and doesn't say a whole lot about the trip. It's just weird. But I'm now focusing on the family's event coming in for our wedding, and then we're getting ready to move and having the house ready for sale, and all of that, like I said, is coming. So we're now into August of 2016, and we have the family event, and it goes great. But again, the night after is weird. We have a special hotel, and he acts like he doesn't care that we finally are married and we can feel this freedom to be together intimately. And he just acts like he turns me down. I had even bought a special negligee and everything, and it was just super weird. But again, I think he's working too hard. He looks really exhausted. We're getting ready to move. We got so much going. It's stress. This is just stress. So we start to get ready for the honeymoon, which is like a month away, and getting the house sold, which starts to being shown. So all that stress, and then he loses his job. He comes home after we get one night day, after the wedding, and after my family's event, and he says, I don't have a job. They let me go today. And I'm thinking, what for? Why? Nothing makes sense. And I, by the way, never saw a pay stub either. I know he had a job because of that fire way back in December when I had stayed with him. And I got to, see that he was involved in all of that. And I picked him up at his work for lunches, and he was obviously working, but it just felt weird. But we get ready for the honeymoon, and the house is being shown, and we're going to have to move when we actually buy our tickets to leave the country officially. My son is finding another place to live. He's going to move out into his own apartment, and he's got this great job. And we decide we're leaving in mid-October. We're going to be moving to Mexico permanently as residents of Mexico in mid-October. So everything is moving towards that. So we've got this August honeymoon that we're finally going to take in Jamaica, and I'm super looking forward to it, to finally having a week alone with him. I mean, every time I've tried outside of those romantic weekends when we're dating, it just didn't work. Except for the one we went to California and got engaged, but the dating was the best period, and everything since then just felt hard, and like I was missing, we're two boats passing each other and missing each other. And I'm thinking, finally we'll have a week or 10 days in Jamaica. I can really get to know him. We can settle down. We can enjoy married life together, and it's just going to be fantastic. So we get ready to go. We're both excited, and we fly into Jamaica and to start the honeymoon. So we get ready for Jamaica. We fly in. And I'm feeling so relieved. I feel like finally we're going to have some time to ourselves, time to focus on us, really slow down. He's no longer working, but work pressure is not on the both of us. The house is now in the process of being sold, and the family stuff is out of the way. We can finally just really enjoy married life and be together. So we get into Jamaica, and they show us around, take a tour, and we have a buffet that night. And we go back in the room, and I'm really excited, thinking, finally, we have some adult time. So he flops onto the bed while I go into the bathroom to change into something special that I bought for this occasion, and I hear the sound of the TV turn on, and I'm thinking, what? And my heart sinks, but I'm thinking, this is recoverable. So I step out in my little negligee that I got for the occasion, and I pose in front of the TV, and he almost cranes his neck to look around me. says, do you mind just coming up and joining me? I really want to watch this. Like, okay, so I do. Feeling now overexposed and underdressed and stupid, and cold in the air conditioning, but I do. I climb up next to him and settle down, and then suddenly, next thing I know, I'm waking up. I'd fallen asleep. I dozed off. The TV's still on. I don't know how much time has passed, but I can tell that Caesar's on the phone. He's doing something on his phone. So without letting him know that I'm awake, I look over at him and look over to see what's on the screen. And at first I can't quite make out what I see. I see flesh tone, but I don't quite get what I'm seeing. And then it hits me. He's watching pornography. And I watch him watch it. He's watching it, he's stopping, replaying stuff, and he'll even zoom in on a piece of the video. And I'm stunned. This is a person very well practiced. No embarrassment, no shame here. So while I'm watching this, a text message comes in. He flips over to the message screen, and I can see at the top that it's a woman. He texts her something. I can't see what he says. And then he looks for a photo, and he sends her a photo of himself. And then a few seconds later, a photo of her drops in. I'm stunned. He flips back to the pornography again, and I can't stomach this. So I make sounds like I'm waking up. He goes, oh, sweetie, you're awake. And he starts to then touch me intimately. Not really engaged himself. It's not like he's kissing me and holding me. It's just touching me. This just feels cheap. Feels awful. And I'm starting to back away from him. And I said, you know what? I'm tired. Let's just go to bed tonight. Oh, okay. And I don't even know how to bring up what I just saw. So we fall asleep that night. And wake up the next morning, I'm still thinking, how do I bring this up? What do I say? So we have brunch, and then we go to the pool, and we're enjoying some drinks and kind of hanging out. And I finally work up the courage, and I said, hey, I saw you watching pornography last night and texting a woman. You texting her to where you sent a photo of her yourself, and she sent one back of her. I'm not okay with this. I thought that you weren't into pornography. I'm not okay with this. He gets angry, gets cold, and he swims away. And an hour he comes back, and things are tense, and we start to go get dressed for dinner. And we go and we have this dinner where it's just hardly we're talking to each other. It's our second night of the honeymoon, and the tension's so thick.
Damn.
We get back to the room, and he stands in the doorway, and he goes, I'm going to go see the musical. I know you're not interested, and I'll be back in a couple hours. And he turns around, he spins out, and he walks back out the door. I'm just staring at the door as it closes, shocked, crushed. And it hits me. I know what this is. He's punishing me for confronting him for what he did last night, for that first night.
Yep.
He comes back in 2 hours, and he's changing in the bathroom, and I haven't said anything. I don't know what to say. I don't know how things are between us, trying to gauge his mood. And he calls out from the bathroom, hey, let's go to the pool. Are you open to that? I really want to do that. So I put on my wet swimsuit, and we track off into the dark, into the pool, and we get there, and we look up, and the moon's out, and he says, see that? You remember when we got married? Remember that day? I'm sorry, you remember when we got engaged? You remember that day when we got engaged? And how the moon was out that time, too? We shouldn't fight. I'm so sorry. And you know what? You're right. I should be texting other women and sending them pictures of myself. Married people don't do that.
Nah,
So
he
how
a
about we put our
narcissist.
phones away for the rest of this trip and just focus on ourselves? And it feels like music to my ears. I start to cry. He tells me how much he loves me, and we then, it feels like things have moved better. So the next morning we wake up, and we put our phones into the
She
safe,
falling for the BS.
and for the rest of the next few days, like the rest of that week, it's great. We have a good time. We do fun things together. We take a few tours. We meet another couple, and it's not like super like physically romantic, but it's sweet. It feels fun. And it feels like what I had hoped for. So we finally get down to the last day. We have a great dinner. We kind of walk back arm in arm and wrapping up this really wonderful week together. He says, let's pack in the morning. We have some time. Again, it's not like really physically intimate, but it's still really sweet. And so we fall asleep that night, and I wake up like about 4 a.m. the next morning to need to use the restroom, and I can see that someone has messaged me. A stranger has left me a Facebook message. So I finally am able to see the bright screen and read what actually this person says, and she writes to me, so the joke's not just on me. It's on you too. I've been dating Caesar for the last 3 months. And then she proceeds to describe my sunglass case that I leave in his car. She then says, hey, was that you? The night, and she describes the night in May when he and I went to the courthouse to pick up his divorce decree. Was that you that called twice? And he said he'd be home in a half an hour. He'd been with her. And I texted her for a couple seconds, verified a couple things, and suddenly it was like there was two realities. There was the reality of what I thought was happening and what I knew, and that this guy is going to work and he's coming home, and he'd seen his kids and we're getting ready to move, and I haven't even talked about starting a Mexican company together. And then there was the reality of what actually happened, and I realized I didn't know that reality at all. I realized I had married a stranger, and it felt like those two snow globes, those two worlds, those two realities came together and crashed. And my reality, what I thought, who I thought I knew, who I thought I married, broke. And I realized I didn't know him. I'd married a stranger, and with that, my mind went blank, went like white, static, offline. I disappeared. Time stopped. And I don't know how long I was gone or checked out, but I heard the sound of something chattering in the room, and I realized it was my teeth chattering. So I was shaking cold. I rushed to the bathroom, and I just didn't vomit, but I just lost it in the other end, just lost it. And I don't know him. He's a stranger. So I go back and I wake him up. I see Caesar, somebody texted me. They said they know you. And he says, stop texting her. Stop texting her. And I hit me. He knows her. He knows what I'm talking about. So I slip on my sandals and I tear off it to the beach. And I'm circling around on the sand. And I'm saying the Lord's Prayer. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd. I'm thinking I need guidance. I don't know what to do. My house is sold. My car is being sold. My son is moving out. I'm moving to a new country. I don't even know the language. I have a visa that I have to finish. I don't know how to get off this. I don't know how to get off this train. I don't know how to get off this ride. So I call a first friend. We never actually met him. And I said, tell her what happened. And he said, I told you he's a gold digger. I hang up thinking, this is not helpful. I need help. I need some advice. I call a second friend. And she said to me, I think he's traumatized. Remember you told me about his terrible history he told you about on the first date? I'd been sexually abused on the first date. I think he's got a sex addiction. Go talk to him. Okay, I can get my arms around this. As a clinical psychologist, that makes sense. Okay. So I step back into the hotel room and I look at him, and he's
everybody need help.
And he's like near tears, and he said, you're gonna leave me? I wanted to know what it was like to have an affair, and I'm so, I know it was stupid. It was really stupid, and I'd not done that before, and I think I have a sex addiction. I've tried to share it with one of my other wives before, and they didn't believe me. I just looked at it like, we're running out of time. So I don't know quite for sure what to say. We pack, we meet the transfer, we head back home. The ride's tense. I can already tell he's getting kind of cop in an attitude. And we get home and we get into the house. I can see the light from my under the son's door that is on, and I know he's up, and I know I could talk to him, and I think, but if I do this, I'm going to drive a wedge between him and my new husband, and there's no going back. They'll become enemies. I can't talk to him about this. I can't think of who to talk to about this. We're back home after Jamaica. I'm devastated. I now know he's been cheating with this woman, and I don't know who to turn to. I'm feeling completely wiped out. I'm very much ashamed. I feel like if I talk to my family, they're going to want me to make a decision and leave. I can't tell my sons. How could my sons even be in the room with him? And yet I'm not willing to say that it's over. I don't know what to do. Meanwhile, we're moving out of our house. We're actually packing up. We've sold the house. The car is gone. So we end up moving into an Airbnb in Iowa for a month while we wait till we actually fly out of the country and move to Mexico. And that's still on. And I don't know what to do, because here's the part I forgot to explain, is that we'd set up a company. We set up a Mexican corporation to hold properties so we could run a vacation rental business. I had set it up with a law firm who didn't speak much English, a big mistake, but I didn't know it at the time. And when they set up the corporation papers, they asked who would have what roles, and nobody explained what it meant to be president or vice president. Who contributes? How do you take all that into consideration? I asked them, and they didn't really know how to explain. They just said, well, these are the roles you need to assign somebody. And then you need to say what percentage of the company they own. And again, they didn't explain what that meant either. They didn't explain about executive rights, administrative rights, about financial rights, nothing. No conversation about who's even providing the capital or anything. So I named myself president and I named him vice president, and then I made this grave error because I don't understand any of the rules. I make him 50% owner, even though I provided 100% of the assets. Not understanding what I had done. Nobody had shared with me what that meant. And meanwhile, I also ran and saw an attorney in the United States about a prenuptial who said, oh, this is before we, by the way, all this happened just before we got married, who said, you know, the best that a prenup does is that protects your assets that you brought into the relationship, but you know, as you get further into the relationship and you build a life together, then you share those assets together. So it really is essentially saying that I don't trust you until I know you better. And I'm thinking on the way home from that attorney's office, how is that going to help me? You know, should I do it or I don't know. So I had these really mixed feelings. I just felt like it was not, this was one of those super naive moments. It just felt really cruel for me to make these financial decisions and not say I'm banking on us as a couple, as banking on us as a going to make it and build this together, that I want to show that I have faith and I have hope and I believe that this is going to go in good places. By the way, when we set up that Mexican corporation, one of the bylaws is that any other country's rules have no standing, that it is governed by the country of Mexico only. So having a prenup wouldn't have helped save me on any of the money they invested in this company, because it was now under the control and the rules of the country of Mexico. So, and a prenup also didn't make sense at that level either. So fast forward, we're moving into this country. We have this corporation set up. We have a property that's, we also bought already a second property and a third property that was under construction that we need to take ownership in a few months. And we're trying to set all this business up long distance. We need to get there and do it. And I don't know what to do. So I find a intensive program that treats sex addicts out in Western United States, and I fly out in desperation for a 3-day intensive, hoping that maybe they'll tell me what's going on. And I also schedule an appointment with a psychologist in the area who meets with us and gives him an assessment, who then says he needs residential long-term treatment. I'm thinking, what? As a psychologist, I knew exactly what she's meaning. She's meaning he needs to go into a program and stay there for months. His problem is so severe that it takes a lot of treatment. And by the way, there's no insurance for that. This is not a DSM diagnosis. Sex addiction is not in the DSM-5. There's no insurance that's going to pay for this. All of this is going to be out of pocket, and I can see this tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars this is going to cost. So I fly out to this intensive program, which was not cheap, for 3 days, to find out the same thing, that he has a pretty significant issue. I see these other devastated couples trying to make it, trying to work through this. The guy meets me and asks me, what kind of woman am I? Do I know my own boundaries? Can I leave? And I'm thinking, you don't know what I'm in the middle of. Then I'm in this big move to a country where I don't have a language, with a business that I'm relying on him. I have no property in the United States. I have nowhere to go. And you're asking me what kind of strong woman? I can feel like the doors, I was entering a prison and the doors were shutting behind me. And plus, I still loved him. I still at this point thought, okay, he slipped. I don't buy his reason. It's stupid. He wanted to see what an affair felt like. But, I had invested in this relationship and my heart was still very much in it. So we leave the intensive program, go back to Iowa, and then we get ready literally to fly out. He gets roaring sick the day before we move. Vomiting horrifically, because we go out to eat at a buffet and he eats something bad. But I pack us up, and he somehow is able to pull it together enough and help me the next day load 10 suitcases. That's what we took. Everything that we brought down in our life down to 10 suitcases, and we moved to Mexico in middle of October of 2016. And at first it felt like a big adventure. We're closing on the new properties. We're moved into this new home with a penthouse, and it overlooks we get a little bit of the view of the ocean from the rooftop. we have these sweet moments where we're furniture shopping for the new places. We're getting things up online and watching the new construction. And we have some moments where we get down there, and the first thing he does is he finds a men's group to be a part of. I find a women's group. Both of us are doing this online, and he's going through his phone and cleaning all the contacts he has. And that's in the middle of all this. I learned that it wasn't just her. He'd been sexting lots of women, and that there was another woman he had seen, I learned, during that family wedding, right after when he asked me to go study with him. He actually had met up with this woman, and they met at a resort nearby. They were in Playa, and then they went to the wedding together, and the person probably took the photo and sent it to me from him at the wedding at the end was her. Which is why he looked so bizarre, is because he was dating me, saying so-called going study with me, and he's down there with another woman. Damn. By the way, I'm going to call her Maria, because she plays pretty big in this story. So I learned Maria has existed, that he's known her for 7 years. They've seen each other off and on, that she's been kind of one of the regulars for him, and that they spent a week in September 2016. Oh, actually, yeah, 2016, they'd spent together. Now, by the way, we're in 2017. We're now married, and it's October 2017. I don't know if I said the dates right. I may have mixed the dates up. But yeah, I met him in July of 2016, got married in June in 2017, moved to Mexico in October of 2017. So I now know that Maria exists. I don't know what their relationship is at that standpoint in October of 2017. We now are in the country of Mexico. My residency is being firmed up, and things feel good. We're like opening business, getting our feet underneath of us, and I feel like, okay, he's working a program. I'm working a program. He went and checked out AA. He's even found a sponsor. It just feels like I'm hopeful. But I'm also shocked, realizing that the intensive program had said to me, Carrie, you think you know what he's been doing. You don't. You only know the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more you don't know. But I feel like he's doing the right things, and he's working the program, and I'm hopeful. So we are getting ready to open a new condo, and we're going to, setting them all up, and it feels exciting, and it feels like maybe we're on the right foot. So we're opening the new company up, and it's set to open early 2018, and it's getting close to Thanksgiving, so I decided, let's get away, let's do something special, let's maybe have a better experience than we had over our honeymoon, let's do an all-inclusive but somewhere close by, enjoy the beach for the long holiday weekend together. So we do that. We go a couple miles north of us, a couple miles north of Playa, and we get into this really beautiful resort, this all-inclusive resort. And the first day we're there, that evening, we're enjoying a glass of wine out on the balcony and looking out at the ocean. And he decides that he's hot, he wants to take a shower, and he leaves his phone and goes in, and I hear him showering. And I stare at the phone, and again, my gut has been bothering me that I don't feel like I know everything. I know he's texted lots of women, and he had been having an affair with Maria in addition to the woman who wrote me over the honeymoon. So I pick up his phone, scared, never done anything like this ever in my life. Pick up the phone, and I open up text. I don't see anything. I go into the email, and there's a letter sitting there that he wrote to Maria. And it's in Spanish, but I can read a little bit of it enough, but not enough. But I hear him drying off. So I forward it to myself and delete a copy of the forwarded email so he doesn't know I do that. And then when he comes out, I'm like trying to cover that I'm shocked and shaky and panicked. And I go into the bathroom to claim you need to use it so I at least have a few minutes alone so I can read the rest of that letter. And in the letter, he writes this really weird message. He said to her, hey, sorry, I got something in my eye. He says to her, I just drove past this resort, and I thought of you, and I remembered with fondness our good times, and I missed it. And then he says this bizarrest thing that I don't quite understand because it's hard to translate. He says, this marriage is a prison. I'm imprisoned. I don't know what to make of that. I'm shocked that he's still in communication with her when he claims that he's not, and he claims he's working on a program. And what does he mean he's in a prison? And she writes back in some weird comment that doesn't line up, doesn't make any sense to me. So I forward it to the therapist that we had at the intensive and say, we need an emergency therapy session. I don't know what to do with this. And then I go out and I look at him and I say, you've been talking to Maria? And he said, yeah, I just got nostalgic and I was thinking of her, and, I drove past where we were in September and it just made me, want to reach out to her. And I said, in the relationship to prison? He goes, no, that's not what it means. That's not how it's translated. That's not what I was saying, although he never said what it really meant. He never clarified what the translation was. So we get through the rest of that weekend. Of course, it's a disaster. I'm feeling crushed, but we get through the rest of that weekend, and we have our appointment with our counselor, now long distance, via, telephone call, and he confronts Caesar. He says, we talked about this. We talked about what you're going to do if you breached. So what's the consequences here? You and Carrie were to set up consequences if you fell off the wagon and did this. Well, the consequence he'd set up back at the intensive was that he was going to tell his mother that he had a problem with women, and he had a problem with being addicted to acting out like this. So I said, well, it sounds like it was time for us to make an appointment to fly to Mexico to see his mom, Mexico City. And he said, yeah, I did agree to that. And then the therapist said to me, so what are you going to do? You just caught him. What's your consequence? And I'm like dumbfounded. I don't know. I mean, again, I felt like nobody could understand the position I was in, that I had no place to go, that I would have to be living in a country where I couldn't speak the language. I didn't have a home back in the United States. I wasn't going to go back to Michigan where where I raised that family. I didn't feel like it was that kind of a community. I wasn't want to go to my mom's house. My dad already passed away. I mean, that was not a solution. I wasn't going to move in with my kids in Texas. That felt like really stupid. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't see any really out. So here I knew this therapist was wanting me to say, I'm going to move out and tell him that he straightens up and look for sobriety, and then only then that I can. I'm thinking, but I don't have those options. I'm in the middle of opening these new 2 condos, trying to get them into Airbnb and all of this, and I'm counting on this guy. And plus, he's running a company with me, navigating an international company in a country I don't fully understand. It's very bureaucratic. I just didn't know what to say. So we flew to Mexico, and we ended up celebrating it as our first Christmas with the family. And in the meantime, we both know that we're there for him to tell his mom. So I'm thinking, here's what I'm picturing. I knew this woman had been married to a similar kind of man, that she had been cheated on, and I thought we're going to have this deep connection between us, that she's going to understand where I've been, I understand where she's been, and it's going to make tears. He's going to apologize, and it's going to be really this cathartic healing moment. So I get ready to go in and tell her when he tells me I'm going to do it now, and he steps in to tell her into her bedroom because she's suffering from a surgery, knee surgery had gone wrong, so she wasn't very mobile. So she was lying down in her bed. He was going to go into her bedroom and sit down next to her bed on a chair and tell her the story. And he looks at me and he says, I'll be back out in a while. You stay here. This is the first I heard that I wasn't going to get to be a part of this. I thought we were going to do this together. I sat out there in the kitchen living room area and cried, not knowing what was being said, not even knowing if he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. He comes out a half hour later and says, well, she was sad, disappointed in me, but it was good to get this off my chest. And he goes, now what's wrong? Now what's wrong? I said, I didn't get to be a part of that. Well, you didn't tell me you want to be a part of that. Well, you didn't invite me. We didn't talk about this. So he's mad. We go for a walk to have an argument privately. And I'm feeling like I don't even know that really happened. So we end up going home after this and planning to have another flight into the intensive treatment center, because they said periodically you need to have lie detector tests. That's only a way for you to know this is truthful. He already had one where he supposedly passed, but it just felt like a pitiful, stupid thing. Like the questions he got to know before they were asked him, we had prepared them in front of him. So it's like he got prepped. Like, I guess that's how you do a lie detector test, but it made no sense to me. I had to think up the questions on the fly, but now we're scheduling it. So I'm thinking of these questions thoughtfully. I know that they had to be yes or no questions. I'm spending some time for this January trip, and I see my kids over Christmas, and we're starting to like move towards getting ready to have this confrontation for me to hopefully find out what's real and what's true. And one of the questions that I planned to ask, I knew was something he was super touchy. Now remember, I just still don't remember that I told him that I had inherited this money from my late husband, that I had come into this money. Now, obviously at this point, Caesar knew there's quite a bit of money because I'm putting it into 3 properties, but I had forgotten that I told him the exact amount, and I still don't remember that. So I'm working on these questions for this meeting out west in the United States for an intensive. And one of the questions that I want to ask him is, did you marry me for the money? Because the counselor had urged me to ask it the first time, and I said, no, I won't. So now I'm feeling more brave to do that, more ready to do that, but I know it's not going to go over well. I'm already starting to feel a lot of terror in this relationship. Like, this is an irritable person. I'm walking on eggshells. I'm starting to feel crazy. Like he gaslights me all the time. Accuses me of being too sensitive or not getting over things, or why can't I deal with it faster, or why am I still holding on to it? I'm just feeling crazy. And I'm not for sure what's real. And I'm now wanting to sneak a lot, and I'm not really finding good evidence, but things are just not adding up. And I just know there's stuff that I don't know. So we're preparing to go to see the therapist back in the United States for the lie detector test. We flew into the intensive program in January of 2018, and it's for the purpose of a lie detector test. This time I'm prepared. I've even sent my questions over to my group leader that I'd been seeing for group support to make sure she agreed, and she helped me to word some of the wording. So we walk into the appointment, which is the sole purpose of it is just to have this appointment. And again, just like before, they made me say what I was going to ask out loud. And I had saved that last question, did you marry me for the money, last? So I'm sitting there in front of him, and I can't hardly speak. My hands are shaking. I dropped the phone. I'm so terrified. And I read my first question, which how much contact he's had with other women, and how much is he lying, and how much do I not know? And I don't even remember what the questions are, but it's basically trying to get a sense of. And by the way, I wanted to know in general, and this therapist in the room, I don't even consider my therapist because he wasn't watching out for my back, but the therapist in the room made me be specific since our last time we were there in October. So he only wanted us to cover from October to January what activities happened in this. In the meanwhile, I'm thinking, I don't still know the full ramifications, except that the original therapist back in Iowa, when I first learned this in September, said this is a severe problem. And in the terms of mental health, you don't use severe lightly. It means like it's catastrophic. And I'm thinking, what else do I not know about this guy? So we work up slowly to that last question, and I say it. And you could have heard a pin drop. Then the therapist makes us go out into the landing, the waiting room, and wait while he sets up the lie detectors test with the polygraph with the examiner, and I have to sit with Caesar sitting next to me, and I can tell he's enraged. I can't even look at him. I stare at the ground, and I'm counting, and I'm trying to figure out any way to I just want to be anywhere but there. And I hear the sound of something happening he's pulling something out of his wallet. And then next thing I know is here. I won't be needing this anymore. And he hands me all of the credit cards for our company. He hands them to me. And then the therapist gets them, and he takes them back to the examiner's room for the polygraph. I rush out. I get into the car, I call my mom, and I'm sobbing. And I said, I think we're over. I think I've asked a question I don't dare ask, and I think we're over. So I end the call because I know I got to get back because this is not going to be a very long exam because only like 5 or 6 or 7 questions. Sure enough, I get back up there, and they're calling me in, and they're waiting for me in the office. So I step in there and sit down, and the therapist looks at both of us and says, he's passed. Oh, well, what is that really? Has he really passed? I'm not convinced he passed either one. I to this day think the guy cheated both of them. I think that he is a pathological liar, lies about everything, and has practiced lying so well that he's lied on these exams, that there wasn't anything truthful. Although they claim they established that he wasn't a sociopath. Really? He seems pretty sociopathic to me. I mean, I'm now discovering that I don't know much of what's real about this guy. So We're now to drive back to the airport. I'm alone with them, and I'm feeling terrified because I know I've gone into that do not cross territory with him, and he's irate.
And she's still gonna be with him.
So the ride is absolutely silent, and I'm terrified. And then finally he breaks the silence and says, "You know what I just realized?" And I said, "What?" He goes, "This is how you've been feeling since you found out I cheated." And I broke into tears. I couldn't believe this empathic response. It so shocked me. So I'm going to take a moment and back up and tell you a little bit about what's happening here from a psychological standpoint. I recognized pretty soon when I met Caesar that I had met a narcissist. But in graduate school, we never talked about what happens interpersonally in a narcissistic relationship. That wasn't even a term. Narcissistic relationship never existed. He and I joked about it. He knew he was narcissistic. I knew he was narcissistic. I knew that meant he was full of himself and selfish, but I didn't know a whole lot of what it meant to live with someone like this. And I didn't know he was a pathological liar, that he lied about everything. In his opinion, the truth was optional. Nobody earned the right to know the truth. Only he got to know the truth, and he curated what everybody saw depending on what he thought they needed to see. The other thing that was happening and up to then is that he had been building a trauma bomb by that hot and cold behavior. And I had quickly, like way back on that first date when he asked me to go without my wig, he had been conditioning me to be obedient and compliant, to recognize and think about the honeymoon when I confronted him and then he dropped me off that night and left me alone. He'd been conditioning me that if I upset him, he was going to abandon me psychologically or emotionally, and that as long as I tried to please him and stay on the right side of things would sort of kind of go better, but not great. And I didn't realize also that he was isolating me. I didn't give him privacy because I didn't trust him alone, but he didn't give me privacy either because he didn't trust me alone, that he had been supervising me and giving me no access to any, like having private conversations with friends, or if he was on our emails because it was a business email, so he tended to see what was coming into me. And if anything happened away from him, he wanted to know the details of what was said and who said what, and I just felt really surveyed. I felt like I was being monitored. So I didn't have a freedom, and he was starting to limit my access to people. He was in the room constantly, so I couldn't call family and have these long conversations. Even if I had to run to that car for that private moment. But other than that, he was around all the time. So I didn't recognize the fact that I had lost a lot of freedom. And here's the other thing that was happening. He was controlling our schedule. He would run us all day for these business meetings, and then at night I would have to do a second shift of work. Meanwhile, he's watching YouTube, ironically, of gold diggers and airplane crashes while I did a second shift of work. And then he would keep us up with the TV in the room later on. When we moved into the new place, he'd watch TV in the room, keeping me awake, and then we would make me up early to start the day. I didn't know that I was experiencing coercive control. So I was quietly being groomed to be a certain kind of a woman, to really know my place, not to challenge him. I couldn't do anything right. He would even read my correspondences. Here I'd run a business myself with a private practice, but he'd read my correspondences and correct me. He was telling me that wasn't doing laundry right. I mean, I just felt like, and here's another example. And at first it looks really, really super sweet. We would go grocery shopping. We'd do it, of course, together. And then he would insist that he puts the items on the conveyor belt. He packages them up. He puts them into the car, and then he takes them out of the car, and I just have to stand and watch. And I'm feeling stupid, like a third wheel. I don't understand why this is all happening. I didn't realize I was losing my autonomy, that he was literally stripping me of freedoms, freedom of privacy. Oh, and the other thing is he insisted we carry cash because he said it looked embarrassing to have to use the credit card that was essentially my bank account or the company's bank account. He wanted to have the right to withdraw money and carry cash. I had heard of that system before. I did it at a group home. I didn't think it was the worst thing in the world. But again, the naive me, remember I said this is like a bullfight. I'm a bull chasing the red flags. I didn't understand the fact that this allowed him to have financial freedom without my supervision, that allowed him to not, forget to put the receipts in or use money without receipts, and essentially hiding his activity. I had no idea that there There was a purpose. I didn't know to question everything that he did. I didn't know there. Remember, I had this marriage with Brad where loyalty and trust and a person's word was their bond, that what you saw was what you got. And I had assumed that was the case here. I had no idea that all of this was going on in the background and that nothing was what it seemed.
What it do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ. Today we back with another lit video. Back in the confessional, and yes, we staying lit, big dog. Shout out to my everyday people who rock with me every day. Shout out to my player partner, Lucky Wills and Deals, and keeps it lit. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section, man. We got part 2 of she married and got scammed by a gold digger. It's crazy, huh? Yeah, this guy, grade A narcissist. But I said before, I was like, why is it every man is a narcissist? Why do we never hear about these women narcissists? Because we see them sometimes telling these stories. Now this one, she's not a narcissist, so I'm not talking about her. It's another one that I did a couple days ago, and if you watched it, you might know. But this guy's top shelf narcissist, and I wonder, did he find that therapist? Because that therapist is not helping her at all. Like, to get the questions before and then say he automatically passed, but then he's handing back the cards like, I know I ain't passed this lie detector test, so let me go ahead and remove myself. Well, by giving her the cards back, remove himself. But that was a play. That was a play on her emotions. He know how emotional she is. Man, and that therapist is in on it. That's crazy. Well, more power to you. We got part 3 coming up in just a moment. Everyday people, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll let you later. Peace.
Day and night. For some women, it can start working in as fast as 1 week.